Hello, everyone. Welcome to Barca News. It is April 16th, 2025, and Barcelona have received a big offer for Jules Kounde. Also, Deco and Flick are looking for a Cancelo-like signing in the summer transfer market. And finally, Barcelona are considering rescinding the contract of Ansu Fati. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mo, and this is the Barca News live podcast, which is on every Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, where we discuss Barcelona news and where I also get to interact with you lovely people in the chat section by answering your questions, reading your comments, and getting the discussion going. For those of you who will be watching when the podcast ends, I will be putting timestamps in the description, the chapters in the timeline, in case you do want to skip through the discussion and get straight into the news. Having said all that, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. If you are looking for any Barcelona jerseys or merchandise, make sure to hit the Goal Kids, Get Bag, or Fanatics. If you are looking to place any sports bets, make sure to bet us. All links are down below in the description. If you click on them, you get access to some pretty cool deals and offers. All right, let's start with the news because, ladies and gentlemen, the semifinals of the Champions League are set, with Barcelona set to face off against Inter Milan in the semifinal, and with Arsenal playing against PSG in the other semifinals of the Champions League. Barcelona are in the semifinals after 6 years since the 2018-2019 season, where we unfortunately got eliminated at the hands of Liverpool after that fiasco, that debacle in Anfield. Now, today, Real Madrid, who were supposed to pull a miracle comeback at the Bernabeu, well, they did not. They ended up losing 1-2. So for an aggregate of 5-1, Real Madrid continue on their on this track of having a horrendous season. And then as far as Inter Milan and Bayern Munich, they drew 2-2, and Inter Milan going through on 4-3 on aggregate. Arsenal being the only team that won both legs of the quarterfinals, because Barcelona won the first leg, lost the second one. Inter Milan won the first one, drew the second one. PSG won the first one, lost the second one. And Arsenal, the only team that won both legs. So props to Real Madrid, who are gonna, pull the miracle, because this is Real Madrid, miracles and Bernabeu and magical nights at the Bernabeu and blah, 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 blah. We're no magical night tonight. Real Madrid are out of the Champions League, with Barcelona advancing to the semifinal. And of course, I do want to ask you guys, who would you have preferred more, Bayern Munich or Inter Milan? Of course, it doesn't really matter. We got Inter Milan, but I am curious to see what you guys thought. In my opinion, I think Bayern Munich would have been a little bit easier. And again, I'm saying easier, not easy, because this is the semifinal of the Champions League. There is no such thing as an easy match. Bayern or Inter were going to be, very difficult opponents. But I think Bayern would have been a little bit easier, and this is why. Because now, don't get me wrong, Bayern Munich have more artillery as far as their attackers than Inter Milan, so they can cause more damage. But Bayern Munich are an attacking team. They're in a team that likes to attack a lot, that likes to advance their lines. And that, of course, leaves a lot of space behind their defensive line, which Barcelona could exploit and has exploited. That's how we won 4-1 during the group stages of the Champions League, by exploiting that space. I mean, Bayern Munich's line was so advanced, they could pretty much high-five our back line, because our back line was also so advanced. And Barcelona were able to capitalize on all the spaces that Bayern Munich left in the back, and were able to, beat Bayern Munich 4-1, versus Inter Milan, who are a lot more compact team that likes to defend and then likes to use counterattacks, which is something, of course, Barcelona have struggled with. Barcelona have struggled with unlocking low block defenses and then defending against counterattacks. So this is why I say I think Bayern Munich would have been a little bit easier, but nonetheless, either one would have been very difficult. So I do want to hear you guys' thoughts. Who would you guys prefer, or who would you have preferred, Inter Milan or Bayern Munich? And as far as Barcelona do go to the final, who would you prefer to see in the final, PSG or Arsenal? Let me know you guys' thoughts, and let me know why. Now, speaking of Real Madrid, who have lost 5-1, I have to say it again. because I know sometimes Madridistas like to come to this channel and watch my videos. So if you're there, 5-1 on aggregate. But speaking of Real Madrid, of course, we know the whole Mbappe debacle with that criminal tackle against Blanco in the match against Alaves, where he's only received a one-match ban thanks to that the referee Soto Grado manipulating or falsifying the match report, stating that Mbappe was trying to challenge the ball, and he ends up hurting Blanco, even though we all saw it. Mbappe was nowhere near the ball. He was not trying to challenge the ball. He simply was trying to hurt Blanco. But Rafa Yuste, Barcelona's vice president, has actually spoken about this one-match ban, saying the following. Let's see, where is it? Right here. Rafa Yuste said, the tackle and the punishment are absolutely absurd. It was chilling and could have injured the opponent. It is a disgrace. And I 100% agree with Rafa Yuste. It's absolutely a disgrace that Mbappe got a one-match ban, where Lewandowski, for doing this, touching his nose, got a 3-match ban because, this can injure other players. But a tackle with the studs up at the shin level, that's not dangerous. That's not going to hurt anyone. But this could break legs. Then Flick, Flick did this. That was 2-match ban because, again, when you do this, you might end up hitting a player in the face, gouging his eyes. That's very dangerous behavior. But, again, hitting somebody shin level, studs up, that's totally safe. So Rafa Yuste, of course, expressing how his disdain to this decision. And as I mentioned in today's video earlier today, Miguel Galan, who was, Javi Galan, sorry, not Miguel Galan. Javi Galan, who's a expert in sports law in Spain, said that Barcelona actually do have a recourse. They could technically file a complaint against the referee for manipulating the match report, and they could ask for a longer ban and ask that the Royal Spanish Football Federation review the video. Because till this day, I don't understand why the disciplinary committee of the Royal Spanish Football Federation, when they review match suspensions, they only look at the match report and not at the footage. This is 2025. We have 4K footage. We have VAR footage, different angles, zoom in, zoom out, speed up, slow down. We have plenty of ways to see what actually happened, not just the match report. If I wrote in the match report that Mbappe simply hugged and kissed Blanco, the disciplinary committee would have to go by that, not by the footage. And it would be like, well, kissing and hugging a player is not a red card offense, and they could technically cancel the red card, because that's how absurd the rules are. But if Barcelona file a complaint, then it could force them to actually look at the footage and maybe suspend Mbappe for longer. But of course, we know that Barcelona most likely are not going to do that. We know Laporta has a very good relationship with Florentino Perez. And, you can only imagine all the crying that we're going to hear, because if Barcelona, get Mbappe suspended even longer, even though it's not really going to matter. He was there for the 0-4. He was there for a 2-5. I don't think it's going to matter much for the Copa del Rey final or for the second La Liga match. Now, Rafa Yuste also had something interesting during this interview to say. He talked about the decision to hire Hansi Flick. He explained that there was consensus within the board that they needed to find a replacement for Xavi Hernandez, and then that it was actually Jean Laporta who asked that Deco and Bojan fly to Germany in order to meet with Hansi Flick to hire him as the next coach. And this is what Rafa Yuste had to say. It happened more or less like that. During the election campaign, Laporta and I met with Ralf Rangnick, a top German fitness coach and trainer. He told us German football was in a strong position and mentioned that Hansi had the necessary qualities to coach the club. At that time, it was not possible because Flick was committed to the German national team. Initially, Xavi expressed full confidence in the squad, but eventually he did not demonstrate the certainty he had conveyed to us. That is why the president decided to change the coach. So Rafa Yuste confirming that Laporta actually wanted Flick from day one. And of course, we've talked about this in the channel. Xavi was never his first choice. Laporta wanted a German coach when he was running for president, but a lot of the coaches were not available. And plus, at the time, the other candidate, Victor Font, he was the one who had promised to bring Xavi as a coach if he got elected. Of course, Victor Font did not get elected. Laporta did. And then by then, there was a lot of hype, a lot of excitement with a lot of the socios, a lot of the club fans wanting Xavi. So Laporta ended up bringing Xavi, which, of course, he eventually regretted it, ended up firing him and bringing Hansi Flick, which, again, was his initial choice when he was still a candidate. Anyways, that is all the news for the first segment, which we always cover several bits of news combined. Let's do the comment section, and then we are going to talk about Jules Kounde, because Barcelona have received an offer for Jules Kounde. Boy123 says, a la Madrid, and with the laughing emoji, of course, it's haha Madrid, not a la Madrid. You kind of made a mistake there. Instead of an L, it should be another H. And Brian says, hey, Mo, Madrid getting knocked out made me feel a little bit better about Barca disaster class. Yeah, definitely, because yesterday was an absolute disaster. And my man Cornell, what's up, buddy? He says, hey, bro, I'm up late in Germany to catch the show. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you. I imagine you watched the match. And let me know if you're going to be going to any of these Champions League semifinals. I mean, you're close by. PK says, hi, Mo, finally made it to the live. What do you think can we knock out Inter? I think this Barcelona, not the one from yesterday against Dortmund, because that was absolutely horrendous. But this Barcelona, the way they've been playing this whole season, I think we are capable of competing against anyone, regardless of who it is. So if the team plays like they've been playing throughout January, February, March, not yesterday, but January, February, March, I think Barcelona has a good chance of making it to the final. Again, this doesn't mean that it will happen. Inter could always beat us. They have what it takes to be able to, and then it's the Champions League. Anything can happen. But I think if the team plays like they have been playing for most of the season, I think we are capable of competing against anyone. Carlos says, hey, Mo, I'm so excited for next week. I'm heading to Spain to watch the final, and I'm going to have to change my flight to Thursday to go watch the semis. Can't wait. Biscarsa. Wow, that's pretty amazing, my friend. Good luck. I hope you have a safe flight, and I hope you have a lot of fun. I'm jealous. I wish I could go watch the final, but unfortunately, I'm actually going to be in Canada, which is not as exciting as watching the final in Spain. But have a good trip. Have fun. Takes lots of pictures, and definitely try to remember that trip or memorialize that trip, because that's a very, very special trip. And Bobby says, yo, Mo, I really think we need to sign Nico, and as much as hope we win the Trebella again, I just don't think we have enough for it, but all we can do is hope. I think we do. I think we have the squad, we have the coach, we have the talent to do it. Now, whether we do or not, that's a whole different story, but I think we can. I think, again, this team has showed that it's the best team in Europe, that we can compete against anyone in any competition, but that team has to be at 100%. Otherwise, if we play like we played yesterday, there's no way we can win anything, because yesterday was an absolute disaster. Hab says, hey, Mo, is Flick going to make some rotations during our next game? I imagine he will. I think maybe Lamine could be rested, but the problem is without Lamine, our attack pretty much is non-existent. But we'll see. But I'm pretty sure he will, because, these players are exhausted. They need rest. But not as exhausted as other teams like Real Madrid, for example. They don't have the luxury that we have, where we have bench players, thanks to Hansi Flick, who can come in, step in, and still do the job, right? Real Madrid have been playing with the same 11 players all season, and this is why you notice they are so tired, they're so exhausted. Our players are tired too, but I don't think as much as Real Madrid. Bobby Ford says, I also would prefer Bayern. They would have been easier, but hopefully we find a way to. Amen, my friend. Amen, amen. Hopefully we will find a way. But yeah, I do think Bayern would have been a little bit easier. And Chris says, I'm happy to have Inter. I want to play a new team. And the best, I am calling a Barcelona final. I hope so, my friend. I had initially also said Inter Milan, because even though I do think Bayern will be a little bit easier, but a different team would be nice, since we already played Bayern. We had already played Dortmund. We had already played Benfica. So far, our knockout stages have been all teams that we already played in the group stages. We haven't played Inter, so that is a new team. So that's refreshing. And plus, like you said, for me, I would rather go the more difficult route, because, at the end of the day, the most important thing is to win the trophy. But I think winning the trophy is a lot more special if you defeat the best, versus having an easy route all the way to the final. Right. And also, at the end of the day, football is entertainment, right? And we want to be entertained. And how you get entertained? By watching the two best teams playing each other, right? Versus, watching one big team completely destroying a smaller one, right? It's just a lot more entertaining when you have two equally good teams going at it head to head. But anyways, let's get back to the news, because we do have to talk about Jules Kounde, because, ladies and gentlemen, Barcelona have received an offer for the French defender, Jules Kounde, who's having a spectacular season as a right back. I think he has definitely cemented himself as one of the best right backs in all of Europe, which is pretty crazy because only, what was it, last season, he was talking about, he didn't want to play right back anymore, that he's a center back and he wants to remain in the center back position. And now, not only is he always playing as a right back, but he has made that position his own. He has become one of the best right backs in Europe. Not the best of matches yesterday, but nonetheless, overall, this season, I think Kounde has been spectacular. And as such, of course, he has caught the attention of some of the biggest European clubs, including Chelsea, who have now made an offer to Barcelona worth 80 million euros. Now, in 2022, Chelsea were very, very close to signing Jules Kounde from Sevilla. In fact, Kounde was already negotiating with them. It was reported that the agreement was almost done. And that's when Xavi picked up the phone. And then Kounde was like, oh, I prefer to go to Barcelona. I think right decision because Chelsea, they've been a total mess. Up this season, they're better, but up until this point, they've been a total mess. So Chelsea had already been interested in Kounde, had been very close to signing Kounde, and it looks like they haven't forgotten about the French defender. And they have now made an 80 million euro offer to Barcelona. Of course, Barcelona are not considering selling Jules Kounde. They want to extend his contract, which expires in 2027. And Kounde has already stated that he too wants to renew his contract with Barcelona, and talks are set to begin between both parties for the contract extension. Now, that's not all. That's not all. It's not only Chelsea that are interested in the French defender. Arsenal are also interested in Kounde. Arteta has been pressuring Arsenal to approach Jules Kounde's entourage. They want to try to convince Kounde that the best thing for him is to move to the Premier League. Because they also looking to sign the French defender. And again, Barcelona not looking to sell him. They want to renew him. Kounde wants to renew. And it's reported that Barcelona would only consider, not agree to, but consider if they receive an offer between 100 and 120 million euros for Kounde. Again, they would consider. Doesn't mean like, oh, we get the offer, yes, let's sell him. They would think about it starting at 100 mil. Anything below, they wouldn't even entertain. Hang up the phone and that's it. But if Barcelona receives something between 100 and 120 million euros, then maybe they would think about it. But overall, Barcelona are happy with Kounde. They want to renew him. And of course, the player wants to also extend. And I do want to ask you guys this. Would you offload Kounde for 120 million euros? Yes, no? Let me know in the comment section. All right, let's get back to the comments. And then we are going to talk about the fullback position, since we did just mention Jules Kounde. Carlos says Barca and PSG would be perfect and more entertaining final because of the way both teams play. I think so too. I think that would be, Arsenal too also kind of play similar, but PSG and Barca are right now kind of like the two most attacking teams and have the most similar styles. So I think that would be a goal fest if PSG and Barcelona went to the final. But anyways, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's first focus on the semifinal. And Raul says, Mo, we're going to face Inter's scary backline, and we got Rafinha who can't even dribble a statue. Remember how Nico was really dancing around Bastoni and Di Lorenzo in the Euros? Enough said. Yeah. I agree on that point. Again, not to knock Rafinha because Rafinha has had an absolutely amazing season. He has Ballon d'Or numbers, but we definitely are lacking a winger who can dribble, who can unlock low block defenses with his dribbling, because right now the only player who can do that is Lamine Yamal. And if Lamine Yamal is having an off night, it's over for the entire attack. And even when Lamine Yamal is having a great night, that's just a threat from the right. We need someone else who can also do the same on the left, because if you have two wingers who are dribbling and causing chaos through the wings, that only spreads out the opposing defense, leaving a lot of spaces through the middle for players like Pedri, like Frankie, like Lewandowski to make those runs through the middle. And that only gives you a lot more options. So we need a left winger who has that ability to that 1v1 ability to stretch out defenses. And in the case that Lamine Yamal is having an off night, it can at least have that threat from the left. Right now, we only have it from the right. And if Lamine Yamal is having an off night, we don't have that threat, period, which is, of course, troubling. Not the Gamer says Mbappe hurting Antonio Blanco, a literal Madrid youngster, is crazy. Man. El Pollito says Mbappe got injured, so I'm satisfied, and karma. I know I did see him when he twisted his ankle. I actually texted my friends, and I know this is a little bit evil because you should never wish something bad on someone else, but I was like, I really hope he broke his ankle, because after that tackle on Blanco and not only getting a 1 match suspension, I mean, that is karma. And Nana says, with Balde, we will hurt Inter. Hopefully, we can get him before the match. So Balde is supposed to come back for the first semifinal of the Champions League. So I think Balde will be back by then, and we are gonna need him, because I think Gerard Martin did a good job against Dortmund, but Gerard Martin doesn't give you that offensive edge that Balde gives you, right? Gerard Martin is a defensive. He's more of a left back than a fullback. So he's good defensively, but going forward is not really his strong suit. So yes, we are gonna need Balde for sure. And see, Super Ice says, "Hey Mo, I watched Inter today, and I think we have a better chance than people think, and the final is ours." I mean, I don't want to underestimate anyone. After all, this is the semifinal of the Champions League. Any opponent would be very, very difficult. But again, I think Barcelona can compete against anyone this season, as long as the team comes out focused, not like yesterday. So, Chris says, on what grounds can Barca sue or appeal the Mbappe ban? Wouldn't it need to be a la base? Because I'm trying to remember what Javi Galan explained. He said something about, because since the referee manipulated the match report, I think that would give Barcelona legal grounds, because if a referee is manipulating match reports, that kind of affects everybody, not just the teams involved, versus if it would just been a 1 match ban because they decided it was a 1 match ban, not because the referee manipulated the match report, then in that case, yeah, obviously the only one who would have grounds for that is Alaves, because they were the ones who received the foul. But since the referee manipulated the match report, that kind of affects everybody, because referees should not be doing that. Anyways, let's get back to the news, because we do have to talk about fullbacks, since we mentioned Kounde in the previous segment, because Hansi Flick and Deco are both considering a Cancelo-like signing come this summer. Now, what does that mean, Mo? What the hell does that mean? Are we talking about some crazy Portuguese guy that every time he celebrates a goal look like he's done a kilo of coke? No, that is not what I mean. What I mean is that, obviously, as we've discussed plenty of times on this channel, Barcelona are in search for not only a left winger, but fullbacks that can rotate with Jules Kounde and Alejandro Balde, with the right back being a bigger priority than the left back, because right now, left back, at least we have Gerard Martin, plus we have Alex Valle, who's on loan, versus the right back, we don't really have anyone. We have Hector Fort, but it looks like Hector Fort is nowhere near ready to be kind of a player that can rotate with Jules Kounde. Now, what's the problem with trying to sign 2 fullbacks that can rotate with Balde and Kounde? Well, the club has very limited resources. We don't have that much money to sign 2 players. We don't have that much financial fair play margin to register 2 players. And as such, Deco and Flick have decided that they, instead of signing 2 fullbacks, they want to sign 1 fullback who is a versatile fullback that can play on both sides. And that's what I mean by a Cancelo-like signing, because, of course, we know Joao Cancelo was capable of playing both as a right back and as a left back. So that's where the Cancelo comparisons comes through, but that's where it stops also, because we all saw what happened with Cancelo. We don't want a repeat of that, but Flick and Deco do want a fullback that can be versatile, that can play on both sides, because the club cannot afford to sign 2 players, and they definitely cannot register 2 players. So 1 player for both sides could be a good alternative. And as such, Deco is currently searching the market for a player that can fit that profile. Now, there are 2 options, the 2 main options that can fulfill this profile or fulfill this requirement that Deco and Flick are looking for are, of course, 2 players that we've talked about a lot on this channel. One, there's Marc Povil from Almeria here in La Liga. And, of course, there is Vanderson, who plays in Ligue 1 for Monaco. Now, those are the 2 main options that are currently being considered, but more options have gained traction in the last few days. Now, what options are those? Guibairo Reed. We've talked about this youngster. He's an 18-year-old Dutch fullback who currently plays at Feyenoord. This is more of a long-term investment that Barcelona are considering. There's also Dodo. We also talked about Dodo. the Brazilian who plays for Fiorentina. He's 26, so this would be more of an established option, someone who would just come and right away can start playing versus Givairo Reed, who would take him some time to adapt. And there's, of course, the Frimpong option from Bayer Leverkusen. This is Deco's favorite option, or one of the options that Deco likes the most. But of course, we're talking about a lot of money there. So we'll see what Barcelona come up with. But right now, Barcelona are laser focused on finding a fullback that can play on both sides. So they can, instead of signing 2 fullbacks, just sign 1. And of course, my question to you, out of these names, who would you prefer? Vanderson, Marc Pubil, Givairo Reed, Dodo, or Frimpong? Let me know in the comment section. All right, let's get back to the comment section. And then we are going to talk about Ansu Fati. All right, let's see. El Pollito says, any news about the potential suspension of Tebas? Barcelona have not filed a complaint, but if they do, Tebas could be suspended because Real Madrid did file the complaint for violation of confidentiality. Their complaint has been escalated to the CSD. So that would be the first official complaint against Madrid. If Barcelona file their own, that would be the second infraction, and that could lead to Tebas' suspension. But so far, Barcelona have not acted on it. Alex T. Jr. says, Mo, can you tell me your prediction for this? No. We're not doing predictions. I already said it last time. I don't do predictions because I feel like I'm going to jinx it. I did it against my own advice to myself, I guess. And then we ended up losing horrendously against Dortmund. So no more prediction. Not the Gamer says, hey, Mo, I got to ask, why are a large part of our Barca Athletic players on loan? I get if there's shit, we could send them back. But why so many players there are loaned in? You mean, why do we have players from other clubs being loaned to Barca Athletic? For the same reason any team loans players. You're not sure about a player. You bring him on loan. You see if it works out or not. If he does, you keep him. And if not, you send them home packing. Richard says, 1, 2, 3, go Cancun. 2 Madrid players already gone from UCL tournament. Yeah. El Pollito says, hey, Mo, did Flick give Barca a day off or they trained today? I know he gave some players off, but not the entire team, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to double check on that. I don't want to give you false information, but I'll get back to you. And again, he says, I don't think that one loss is that big of a deal despite the performance. I think we can bounce back, and I really hope Bilbao can give us a breathing room in La Liga. No, a loss is never a big deal because losing is part of the sport. The problem is how the loss came about. If Barcelona had played a good match and then they still lost, I would have been like, all right, whatever. It's bound to happen. Kind of like when we lost against Atletico Madrid in December, right? We lost 2-1 at home, or 1-2, I should say, at home. And I wasn't upset. I was like, hey, Barcelona played one hell of a match. We deserved to win. We created more chances. Unfortunately, the ball didn't want to go in, and that sometimes happens. It is what it is. It's part of the sport. Oh, well. But there's a big difference between the loss against Atletico Madrid in December, which was our last loss before yesterday, versus the loss from yesterday. And it's that yesterday the team played horrible. And that's concerning because we are in the final stretch of the season where trophies are won or lost. And if Barcelona repeat that performance again, we'll be in trouble. If Barcelona played the same way they played against Dortmund in a Copa del Rey final, it's over. Madrid will win it. If we play the same way in the semifinal of the Champions League, it's over. Inter will knock us out. If we play like that in La Liga, Real Madrid could catch up. So that's why I was upset. Not because we lost, because losing happens. It's how we lost, which was in a very horrible way. And Kodom says, hey, Mo, is Kobe Black from Ghana? I'm very happy today for that. Madrid performance. I am too, my friend. And James Z says, hey, Mo, thanks for all your hard work. You can't put enough sarcasm on that Mbappe decision. La Liga looks pathetic to put up with that decision. 100% agree with you, my friend. And Teja says, hey, Mo, so games every 3 to 4 days, would you play Ronald as either the 2 Inter and Madrid games? That's a good question. The problem with Ronald Araujo is that this season, he is just not it. Not it. Which is crazy because to me, Ronald Araujo is one of the best center backs in Europe. I think for the past 2-3 seasons, he's proven that he's one of the best center backs in Europe. But this season, I don't know what to tell you. This season is like a completely different guy. I mean, at this point, I trust Eric Garcia over Ronald Araujo. Like Ronald Araujo has become the fourth center back, where you have Iñigo and Pau, obviously the first two. Eric Garcia, to me, I would much rather have him play next to Cubarsí or next to Iñigo, and then Araujo as a fourth option. So if we need to rotate, I would much rather rotate with Eric Garcia than rotate with Ronald Araujo. But anyways, let's get back to the news. Let's do the last bit of last segment of news, and then we will do more comments. But we have to talk about Ansu Fati because Barcelona have a big problem on their hand because it's clear as day that Hansi Flick does not count on Ansu Fati. Ansu Fati is out. I mean, there's been matches where he hasn't even been included in a squad list, let alone being on the bench. So Ansu Fati does not count to Hansi Flick. And of course, that's a problem because not only this is a player that you're paying that your coach does not count on, but it's a problem because Ansu Fati has a humongously huge salary. Now, Ansu Fati was one of the first players that, first things, I should say, not even first players, one of the first things that Joan Laporta did when he arrived at the club. He renewed Ansu Fati until 2027, giving him a huge salary because, of course, at the time, Ansu Fati was the star of the team, or one of the stars of the team, was one of the most promising players to come out of La Masia. And no one expected what happened to Ansu Fati would happen, the injuries, the surgeries, and the fact that he's never bounced back again. So now, of course, Barcelona are stuck with a player that not only Flick doesn't count on, but a player that Barcelona are paying over 10 million euros per season net. So this is, of course, a big problem because it's already expensive to pay that much money for a player who's playing, more so for a player who's not even being included in a squad list. So Barcelona, of course, have to find a solution on what to do with Ansu Fati, but this is a sensitive problem because of what Ansu Fati represents, right? We're talking about an academy player. We're talking about someone who wears the 10, someone who gave us a lot of hope that he would be the replacement for Lionel Messi, someone who has a very good relationship and is very close to all the players inside the locker room. So Barcelona, on one hand, need to get rid of him, but at the same time, they need to figure out a way of doing it without angering the locker room, who are very close to Ansu, without angering the fans, because, you know, you don't want to just discard an academy player, right? That's just not a good look. Someone who's been in the academy since he was a little kid, grew up in the academy, and then to just throw him out on the street, it's not a good look. So on one hand, we need to get rid of him because we're paying him a lot of money and he Flick doesn't count on him. On the other hand, we have to do it in a delicate way. Now, Barcelona are now considering rescinding the contract of Ansu Fati, of course, upon agreement, not unilaterally, because then you have to pay him the remainder of his contract. But kind of reaching an agreement with Ansu Fati to be like, hey, you know, it's best if you go somewhere else. That way you can relaunch your career. Let's agree, you know, we rescind the contract. That also would be beneficial for Ansu. It would be beneficial for Barcelona because they get rid of this huge salary. And it would be beneficial for Ansu Fati because now he can go and negotiate with a club's higher salary, right? Because if a club has to come and pay a transfer fee, they're going to offer you less money for your salary because they have less money to spend. But if they don't have to pay a transfer fee, they can offer you a higher salary because they have more money to spend. And of course, they can offer you also a signing bonus. Now, of course, Barcelona would rather to get a transfer fee off Ansu Fati, make at least some money. But if they can't, then contract rescission is an option. Now, the other option that Barcelona also has is, of course, extending the contract of Ansu Fati in order to, you know, dilute his salary, divide it over more seasons, and then send him out on loan. But it's reported that Ansu Fati is not in favor of this move because this only means prolonging his agony, right? He's at a club where things are not working out. Extending his contract only means he's going to spend more years here where it's not working out. So we'll see what comes out of this. We'll see whether Barcelona eventually are successful in getting a transfer fee or whether contract rescission will ultimately be the solution to this unfortunate problem, which is pretty sad because I don't know if you guys remember, but when Ansu Fati came out of the academy, I mean, he was it, right? He was maybe not as good as Lamine Yamal, but up there, right? A guy who came up through the academy. He was scoring goals left and right. He looked so promising. And to see him now not even being included in squad list is definitely sad. I hoped and wished that Ansu Fati would bounce back, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. It didn't happen on loan. It didn't happen under Xabi. It didn't happen under Flick. So it's most likely not going to happen. And it's time, I think, for Ansu to search for a new team. All right, let's see. Jason says, respect to Dortmund for wishing us well. Yeah, that was really cool. If you guys don't know what he's talking about, Barcelona wrote a message to Dortmund kind of saying, you made it difficult for us. You were a great rival, etc. And Dortmund replied by saying, all right, you now go and win it, with like the emoji of shaking hands. That was a pretty cool message from Dortmund. Cool message from Barcelona as well. And we do have a donation. Nathan Forts, thank you so much, my friend, for your donation. Nathan says, hi, Mo. I hope Barca sell Araujo, FDJ, Ansu, and probably Ferran to buy some players and strengthen the team. I think I'm okay with all these. Araujo, it pains me to say this because Araujo has been so great for us. He's been such an amazing center back the past few seasons. We've seen his love and dedication for the club. I don't know if you guys remember that one time where the ball went out, he was going after it and the crest was on the floor and he just like jumps, almost breaks his leg to avoid stepping on it. So it pains me to say this, but unfortunately, Araujo he just doesn't fit Flick's system. Doesn't mean that Araujo sucks. It just doesn't fit. It's just not a good fit for Flick's system. It's unfortunate, and it pains me to say it, but I'm okay with that. FDJ, I've been wanting him out for a very long time. Ansu Fati, unfortunately, again, I would have loved to see him bounce back, but it's not going to happen. And Ferran Torres, I think so, yeah. I mean, he's been a super sub this season, but at the end of the day, Ferran is just not Barca level. And if we can get 40, 50 million for him and then go sign a proper center forward replacement or a proper left winger, I'm all for it. But thank you for your donation, my friend. And Not the Gamer says, Chelsea is a big European club. They have more players in the reserves than point this season. Yeah. I mean, dude, Chelsea have enough players to create 3 different squads with subs. I mean, it's absolutely insane. I think, Todd Bowley, the new owner, he's American. So maybe that's why. Maybe he just doesn't understand football or soccer. Maybe he thinks the ultimate goal of the sport is to accumulate players, and the team with the most players wins. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe someone was explaining to him the whole point system in the league. You win a match, it's 3 points. You draw, it's 1. You lose, 0. The team with the most points wins the league. And maybe he just got distracted and he understood that the team with the most players wins. And that's why he's been just collecting players. And probably sitting there like, why haven't we won yet? We have like 100 players. Eureka Geddon 666 says, I just witnessed Madrid receive belt to as predicted. Kounde contract should be extended. He has proven himself multiple times and has blended with the Flick system. I agree with you, my friend. And Riverside Clinic. All right. Hit like, guys. This guy always gives quality info. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate your comment. And yes, please hit that like button. The like button actually goes a long way helping this channel grow. The more likes the video gets, the more likely YouTube shows that video to people who've never seen the channel. So please hit the like button. It takes a second. It's completely free. Sean says, I would play Balde as a winger and use Martin as the left back if we need to open up the defense. Balde did start out as a winger. I mean, that is a good option, true, but I just don't see Flick putting Balde in the place of Rafinha just because, the season that Rafinha has had. But there's always an option. If Rafinha is not working, you can always take him off, advance Balde, and bring in Gerard Martin. And that way, Gerard Martin can play as a left back. But from the starters, I just don't see Flick doing that. Because it's just hierarchy. And, it would be an insult to Rafinha to be like, you're the captain. You've had a great season. And you know what? We're going to start Balde ahead of you, who's not even a winger. But you have Rafinha start. If it's not working, take him out. Advance Balde, bring in Gerard Martin. And I think that's a good option. So Layman says, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We should just take it one game at a time. With a bit of luck, we can do great things this season. Visca Barca. Amen, my friend. I agree with that statement. And Obase Leonon says, Mo, my friend, good evening. Cameron time. I don't like Gerard Martin. He gives wrong passes in the lot, and Frankie is the worst. I like what Gerard Martin did. Again, going forward, that's not really his strong suit. But let's not forget, the goal is actually thanks to him. It starts with his recovery and ends up being an own goal. Same thing with Leganés. It was Gerard Martin who steals the ball, gives it to Rafinha. Rafinha passes it to Lewandowski, ends up in an own goal. So I like what I saw from Gerard. Again, he's no Balde. He's never going to be Balde. But I like what I saw. SA says 100% we must buy Nico Williams and Florian Wirtz in the Sport and Explore. I mean, out of those names, Nico Williams is the only one who's actually a possibility. Wirtz is just not going to happen. Mustafa says Bastoni is a good option after selling Araujo because he's versatile and can play. Left back as well. And Cherno says, hi Mo, I'm very happy today after Vardrista knockout by Arsenal. He won't split the we now won't split the TV rights bonus with them, and that's good for us to reach the 1-to-1 rule. I hope so, my friend. I hope we can reach it. Sevilla says, Sevilla ain't bad for Ansu Fati. The focus should be to get him somewhere deemed the very best home for him, best chance for him to get to a mighty version someday. Paris FC environment. I mean, Paris FCs are in League 2, so I don't think he's going to want to go to second division. And Kyle says, what about the young Colombian striker? Are you talking about, oh my God, what was his name? Is it Villarreal? No. Damn it. It's the same last name as the city in Spain. No news yet. We'll see in the summer if Barcelona end up signing him or not. But anyways, he becomes a free agent in December, I think. So it wouldn't even be till the end of the year. But anyways, that is all the news for today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in, for your comments, your likes, your donations. I forgot the word. I don't know why. No more videos for today. No more news. So I won't see you until tomorrow. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. And as always, Visca Barça.